it did propel me into entrepreneurship in the sense of I got to manage my whole business from start to finish, and I enjoyed that juggling act. I wasn't one to really zero in and focus on one thing. I didn't want to sit and do marketing all day, every day, or sit and look at finance, books all day. I wanted to kind of look at the sum of the parts and work them all together. And I got an opportunity to do that through College Works, which I really appreciated.
On today's show, I'm excited to talk to David Renberg, broker and owner of Foundation Realty in Manhattan, Kansas. After graduating from Kansas State University, David started his brokerage at just 23 years old. He was the youngest broker in the state of Kansas by over a decade and has since built a very successful real estate business on the values of integrity, excellence, and kindness. I'm excited to talk about his entrepreneurial journey and how he built a successful brokerage. Welcome to the show, David. We're so pumped to have you. We go way back. I can't even remember what year, but we met through the College Works internship when you were a student up at Kansas State University.
Mm-hmm.
And holy cow, dude, I'm excited to catch up with you. I follow you on social media and I feel like I know what's happened in your life, but we haven't had a chance to talk a lot in the last decade or so. So how are you doing, man?
Yeah, doing great. Yeah, that was back 2011. I remember because that was the year I got married as well as did College Works painting. So it was pretty memorable.
All right.
Summer. Yeah.
A big moment. I do remember that now. Yeah, I think you had your honeymoon in Tennessee, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good memory.
Middle of production, trying to run a business as a college student, getting married, starting adulthood, and pretty mature guy for not a lot of college students I meet with now are ready to settle down yet. But I remember you were like focused and driven and ready to go.
Yeah.
We're pumped to have you on the show. And we always like to start off with the edge of excellence. Like you've done some pretty remarkable things in your career, and particularly at a young age. Got married at a young age, started a business at a young age, and I think we're one of the youngest real estate brokers in the state of Kansas by maybe a decade when you got started as a broker. So, what is your definition of excellence?
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about that this week since you asked me to be on the podcast. And when I think of excellence, I think of effectiveness. So having a specific conviction or kind of resolve of what you are set out to do, and then being effective in that. So I think of excellence being contrary or being opposed to kind of ordinary. And so ordinarily people take the path of least resistance. They look for ways to add things to their plate or take things away from their plate just for the sake of those things. But to me, being excellent is adhering to your convictions and to your what you've resolved to set out to do, and doing that really excellently. Excellence, doing that with a lot of effectiveness.
So effectiveness towards a focused goal.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So it sounds like there's results have to be achieved. Some objective has to be reached. Something needs to be accomplished to be excellent.
Right. Yeah. But I like to think of it as being outcome oriented rather than task oriented. So I'm looking to achieve something specific, not necessarily to do an action that I think is going to give me the results. I'm looking for the results, therefore I do the action. That makes sense.
We're talking about that a lot right now with people in the beginning of production season, that
I'm sure
it's not about just being on the job site. It's what are you doing there? Like, are you training somebody? Are you organizing things? Are you making a plan? Are you communicating something? Like, what are you there for other than just to say I was there all day? So that's awesome, man. So I love that definition of excellence. So let's go way back to early life and what you were doing, as a teenager. A lot of our listeners are younger. Some of them are exploring majors and things they want to figure out with their career. Where do I want to go to school? What do I want to study? What do I want to do for a living? And some people know that, and others have no idea, and they kind of stumble upon it. What was your early life like?
Sure. Yeah. So back in high school, I think of myself as kind of a Renaissance man of sorts. I did all sorts of things without a real kind of strong or central friend group. So I played football and I wrestled, but I was also in an a cappella group, and I was highly involved in 4-H. I was a lifeguard at our pool, but then I also I was a part of a nonprofit organization for a man with special needs, and we did kettle corn at festivals on the weekends over the summer. So I had a very eclectic experience, I guess, in high school and early in college. But the one thing I thought I knew I always wanted to do was be an engineer. And I think I've heard a couple of the other people on the podcast say something similar. My dad was an engineer growing up, and I was really good at math. And so course, I'm just going to be an engineer. That's kind of not something I'm going to think a lot about. So I started out my first semester in college in the engineering program, and quickly found out that I really love the creative problem solving and even technical problem solving, but not necessarily in the engineering field. So yeah, I'd say I kind of meandered into my current profession.
So in high school, you did a lot of different things. And it sounds like you
Hmm.
were already kind of ready to do what you enjoyed, what you wanted, or were passionate about. You weren't just, I'm just going to stick with this friend group and just do what they do. If I want to
Right.
sing and play sports and do fundraising and be involved in my church community and do
Right.
rural livestock shows, like I'll do
Yeah.
all.
Exactly. Yeah, but that came with cons, right? I didn't have that kind of core central friend group I longed for. But if you think about my high school years as a teen movie or something, I would not fit into any one particular category. I kind of ran with everybody and tended to get along okay with everybody. And but yeah, I explored a lot of different things. But I do think that helped me in college. I got a little bit of that out of my system, and I started to know the things that I liked better, or kind of the key variables that I liked better, and the things that I didn't like a lot. So, for example, I worked for a rancher most of my high school career, just on the weekends, hauling hay and cleaning out horse stalls. And I loved just kind of getting to go and work when I wanted to. He wasn't real tight on my schedule as long as I got my work done each week. So I loved the flexibility of making my own calendar, but I did not love the solitude of not being around people. I tend to thrive more in community and being around people. And so I think a lot of those jobs helped me start to see what do I like, what don't I like. And fortunately and unfortunately, engineering was another one of those kind of mistrials. Like, okay, this isn't this isn't where I'm going.
And I see a pattern of a lot of the people on the show were really busy. Like they're doing a
Mhm.
lot. They don't just sit around and go to school and that's it. They're playing sports. They're in volunteering. They're in different things in their community. Just have lots of jobs. They start working
Yeah.
at a real young age and keep working, and that can be frowned upon. Right now, there's a lot of youth that are like pigeonholed into one thing. Like you're going to play
Mm,
baseball. You're on the travel baseball team, and
that's
that's
all
all
you
we
do.
do. And
Right.
no job, no extracurriculars. Don't take the honors classes in school. You don't have time for that homework. You got to do the baseball stuff. And it's very, focused in one thing. Um,
Yeah.
and I think, as an adult successful in your career, like eventually you do need to be focused, right? You
Yeah.
eventually have to pick a focus, but early on, it seems like most successful people are doing a lot and staying busy and really involved in many different fields, not just focused yet.
Yeah, and I think I'd say I achieved a certain level of success in each category, but I kind of drew the line, right? So it's like I was involved in choir at school, and then I got asked to be a part of the a cappella group, which was like kind of the select choir. But I didn't go and do a bunch of contests. I didn't take that any further in college. And on football, I was all state honorable mention. I got to play in the Shrine Bowl my senior year. Like I had some success, but I didn't go on and play in college. I had kind of the next thing. So it seems like a lot of the things that I enjoyed and excelled at, I didn't let it take over my life yet, at least, because I knew that wasn't necessarily the end goal.
So then in college, you went to Kansas State University right out of the gate, right?
Yep. Yep.
And
Actually, both my wife and I we dated starting sophomore year or junior year. I'm sorry, in high school, and so she wanted to be a teacher and I wanted to be an engineer, and so K State was the best kind of in-state option for those two programs. So kind of the only reason I went to K State was to be an engineer, and it lasted half a semester. So
nice. So,
yeah.
so then you go, all right, I want to be an engineer. I'm here, and taking some classes. And then at some point it changed. What changed and how did you find your next path?
Yeah, I think the real clarifying moment for me, I had the whole, freshman, pretty heavy, engineering schedule. And supposedly my easy class was intro to computer engineering. And he started the whole class with, if you show up on time and you do your homework, this is going to be an easy A. Like, don't stress about this class. It's just to get you some of the fundamentals. And I remember just before the withdrawal deadline, I was failing that class, and not from lack of effort, but because it didn't come to me intuitively, right? Just because I was good at math didn't make me a great computer engineer. And so I remember thinking, golly, if this is my easy A class, this is going to be a struggle. I maybe need to reevaluate what I'm doing. So I was able to pull out of those couple of failing classes, so I didn't have to and took a withdrawal instead of a fail, and kind of recalibrated and decided to get into business. Because again, what I had already learned at that point is I really enjoy the people and I enjoyed the creative problem solving. But if I got too technical, it didn't click great for me, and it wasn't something I enjoyed. So,
So,
and So that's where
We
that's
we
what
got a
took me
lot
to
of
business management.
similarities in like stubbornness and stick to itiveness of like I've been with the same partner in life, my wife, since we were in high school. You were
Yeah,
your wife since high school. We, I've had the same career at CollegeWorks for the last 20 years. You've been in the same real estate business and industry for almost as
very long
long. So
time. Yeah,
we have that stick to itiveness. And yet you just said I quit. I quit
yeah,
engineering and very
yeah.
quickly. And so how do you know like I'm failing at something and it's time
Mm,
to switch instead of oh, I'm failing, I better quit. I'm gonna fail the next thing and quit and I'm gonna fail. And instead of
right.
just failing and quitting everything, know that like, no, this is actually time to change gears.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say some of it is by intuition, because I didn't let myself quit easily early on, and so I kind of knew that threshold of where it's like, okay, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, so to speak. This isn't going to be a good fit for me. Um, yeah, there were very few things, prior to that I outright quit. I'd finish out the season, I'd finish out the game, whatever the thing was. But yeah, I really think it was just a strong intuition. This is not a good fit for me, and I'm not a quitter, but I need to quit this. If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And you said not for lack of effort. So you tried to make those things work.
Right, right. I slept
And
through my chemistry classes, but I didn't sleep through my computer engineering classes, and I worked hard in that specific class. And so failing that was very humbling for me because I was an A's and B's student all through high school, and for the rest of college I was. And so to struggle so much with something that was supposed to be easy is like, okay, I think this is a clear sign that this is not where I'm meant to be.
got it. Yeah. So what was the parental support like? Was engineer dad
Oh,
okay with this?
yeah. No, he was not. I remember calling him and I said, Dad, I decided to withdraw from engineering and I'm going into entrepreneurship and, small business. And I think it was like the second year of that program. So it was a small program, anyways. And I remember he said something to the tune of, entrepreneurship, what the hell kind of degree is that? Is that second to underwater basket weaving? And he was kind of he gave me quite a bit of grief, and we like to laugh about it now because he's like, well, I guess you proved me wrong, huh? Because it turned out all right. But I remember in the moment that was difficult for him because he grew up in a culture where you get a hard skill and you learn that hard skill and then you do that, for your career, and that's where you find security and safety, and that was his experience and work. So I don't fault him too much for that. I appreciate that he was willing to, you know, challenge me on it and make sure it was a good decision for me. But yeah, it definitely wasn't a real popular decision for that first little bit
And
when
sometimes
I
that
got
gives
into
you the
business school.
motivation to say, I'm going to make this work
Yes,
because
that's right. I
there
want to
are
tell you
some
so.
there are some non-believers and I need to prove them wrong. So,
That's right. Yeah, that's
uh,
exactly right.
so you decide to go into business and entrepreneurship. We talked a lot
Hmm.
about entrepreneurship majoring on this show and how maybe it's not the best major. So even
Sure.
as a lot of entrepreneurial guests have been on the show, and I studied some entrepreneurship in college, and we're like, it's hard to teach somebody it. You got to
Right.
maybe college is a place to go. Maybe I should have taken more like you're in real estate brokerage on maybe legal classes or finance classes or things
Hmm.
that are technical skills. That's like, well, this could help me in my career, but it's hard to learn
Right.
how to be an entrepreneur. So you knew that. At what point did real estate kind of become the field of interest or the industry of interest?
Sure. Yeah, so that's a great question. So it's actually through my entrepreneurship major, and I'll say I had a very good experience at K State. I felt like they gave us a good well-roundedness of econ and stats and all the technical skills, and they just kind of bundled it in what they called an entrepreneurship major. So if I were to go back, I wouldn't regret doing it again. But I also have thought about, well, could I emphasize more in econ or stats or something else, kind of like you're saying, something a little more technical to have those skills. But it was through a small business consulting class. Actually, it would have been my junior year. Um, yeah, my junior year in college, that I advised a company called Alliance Realty. So we here locally, they were a prominent real estate firm, and they were either to make up a business problem, or have an actual business problem. Then a group of students would then consult them on that problem. And so our group got assigned to a real estate firm, just kind of out of happenstance. I think I went to church with him, so there may have been like I chose that company because I knew the owner and I thought that would help out, or maybe he chose our group because he knew me. I don't remember what the reason was, but anyways, we matched up, and I'm sure that those kids in my group went on to do great things, and maybe it was just a lazy semester, but most of them didn't do a whole lot of anything during this group project. And so I ended up basically single-handedly doing the project, at least all the technical stuff on the project, and then we all showed up to present it to make sure we got a good grade. But the broker, the business owner that we were consulting, took notice of that, and so he mentioned to me that he had an opening for more of an administrative role at his firm, and that I could work hourly to make some money in the meantime, and then I could get my feet wet by get my license and start to kind of get into real estate and see if that's a good fit for me. And so that was kind of the start of it. I ended up getting my license in August of 2012. So before I started my senior year, I graduated in May of 2013, and then got married the previous summer when I did my college works intern year of 2011. So that was kind of that timeline, and yeah, that's how I got involved in real estate.
Got it. So as you're going through your entrepreneurship stuff, you found out about College Works.
Hmm.
That's not all the show's about. We want to talk about the broker side, what you do now, and all that. But I do want to, hear a little bit about that experience of how did that help you solidify or change your ideas about entrepreneurship or business ownership, and what kind of pushed you to do the College Works internship.
Sure. So I think there was a good amount of hype around college work, so I was pretty jazzed to get the internship, and I'd say rightfully so. My summer may not have been the glowing success that some students have. I feel like I struggled a lot my summer, and I think I learned just as much, if not more. But I think I ended up producing, and you probably have my numbers, or maybe remember them, but I think I ended up selling 72,000 in 2011, and then I produced like 65 or something that way. And so it was a fine year, and I finished the year, which I was, proud of. But man, I had a lot of stress. I didn't handle the wedding on the same summer well. I had a lot of turnover. I think I interviewed 53 people that summer, and never had a crew of more than like 3 people working. And so thank God for my brother-in-law. He then almost to be brother-in-law, he came in and saved my bacon. So he was a consistent employee and did a good job for me over the course of the summer. So, but it was definitely an experience that taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about how to have thick skin with customers. Taught me a lot about how to interview people and kind of had an intuition about if people are going to make it or not. Unfortunately, through people who quit a lot, it's like, okay, well, that was not a good interview. Actually, I had to learn that the hard way. So, but it did propel me into entrepreneurship in the sense of I got to manage my whole business from start to finish, and I enjoyed that juggling act. I wasn't one to really zero in and focus on one thing. I didn't want to sit and do marketing all day, every day, or sit and look at finance, books all day. I wanted to kind of look at the sum of the parts and work them all together. And I got an opportunity to do that through College Works, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, the entrepreneur is like the CEO of the business, obviously, but they're also kind of like an
Right.
architect where they got to figure out. It's
Yes.
like when you buy a house, like if you would decided to design your own house without an architect's help, and all of a sudden the bathroom's too close to the kitchen, and now the kitchen smells like poop all the time, and you go, well, I
Right.
didn't know, I didn't think
Yeah.
about that. But the architect is like, no, we got to put certain things in certain places and do it certain
Right.
ways for the builder, but also for you to live there and for it to be enjoyable. And that's kind of the entrepreneur's job, is to go, I got to figure out how to build this business in a way that it's going to work and people are going to enjoy their jobs and the company's going to achieve success and the clients are going to want to do business with us and people are going
Right.
to want to work here. And I got to work in the business too, in some role of sales or management, but I'm also thinking, on the business and in the business about it. So
Yeah.
this College Works experience was a stressful one while getting married, while being a
Hmm.
student, and
Yeah.
all the
I
work
think I
that went
lost
into
20 pounds that summer. I
that.
didn't eat
so
very much, and I,
so
I,
and I
I like to
I
tell the
remember you
anecdote
being
about some of my. Go ahead.
kind of easily stressed, like,
Yes, yes, that was part
um,
of my growing. Was I was so easily stressed, and that paired with actual stressful situations was a bad combination with but between employees, and then I had several very difficult clients. I remember my most difficult client. She'd have her walk around every day with a pair of binoculars to see how good her paint job was on her house, and so I
just
remember
natural.
that was the job that was supposed to be happening over my honeymoon, and we were supposed to be finishing up, and needless to say, it didn't. She pulled us off until I got back. So it's a
Oh man,
tough
probably
job.
makes you a pretty good eye for assessing a property's value now. Like, hold on,
Yes.
let's get the
Yes.
binoculars out
Yeah.
before we
Right.
submit the offer.
Uh-huh. but even more than that, kind of picking out what a client is going to be like. And I like to think I've developed a lot since then. And working with, if we think in terms of the disc profile, really high D personalities, high I personality, like I feel more comfortable in each of those contexts, but at least being able to pick it out from the get go, so I know, kind of brace myself for what to expect. I think that's a big thing that College Works taught me, was because I didn't have any of those skills going into it. But throughout a summer of both difficult and easy clients, it was like, okay, I get a much easier and quicker read on people because of that experience.
Yeah. So you, despite that stress, aren't scared away from entrepreneurship. There are
Right.
people like that that go, all right,
Yeah.
I've done the College Works internship and I've learned from it that I definitely don't want to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
And you went, it's stressful, but I'm still intrigued by it, and I think I could do it. And then find the real estate. So you do the real estate
Hmm.
project, go work at the real estate company, and then what point were you like, I'm going to do this on my own?
Yeah. So I think it was about 6 to 8 months in that I decided that I don't want to be an hourly employee. So that happened really fast.
That was
I was like,
fast.
yeah, I think I got my second commission check, and I was like, I had already kind of given them a heads up. Hey, I'm wanting to wind down. I think I got my second check, and I thought, okay, done. I've got more in the pipeline. I've got clients I'm working with. I need to get out of the hourly thing, because it was actually making it more difficult for me to sell the commission stuff, which was making me better money. So I appreciate the opportunity that he gave me. That made it a little bit. It's like, I think his hope is I'd be able to do that for a couple of years, and I got out of that a little quicker than I thought. But so yeah, I got into full-time real estate, stayed there at that firm just as a full-time agent. And actually my first year, I ended up selling. So I had great motivation. So we talked a little bit about jumping into life stages early. I got married my intern year. My daughter was actually born January of my senior year. So in the middle of my senior year, our oldest was born. And so that was kind of the impetus of even getting into the job in the first place, was I can still finish my degree, but then I can also have a flexible job, get some income, provide for my family while I graduate on time, was kind of the goal. And so I got out and I hustled, and ended up selling in the top 20. I think it was top 17% of 350 plus agents in our region, just in my first full year in real estate. And so that was when I was like, okay, I think I have a knack for this. This maybe makes some sense for me to do. And that was kind of paired with a conviction. We felt like God was calling us to stay put in the area. And so I like to tell people that that was a specific conviction. I didn't say, hey, I definitely want to be a real estate agent. I don't know that I ever had that, like, okay, this is definitely what I'm going to do as a career. It was more, okay, I feel compelled and resolved that I need to stay in this geographic region, and God has blessed my business in a way that I couldn't have ever guessed. So why rock the boat, right? So I kind of stayed with it, and it's obviously remained successful. So it's gone really well.
Got it. So you found a community you want to be a part of and said, I got to be here, and
Yeah.
this career will enable me to do that. And then what was it like kind of breaking off on your own, and what's it like in the world of a real estate broker? Because I think a lot of young people are very interested in real estate, and real estate's had a whole lot of buzz about it in the last few years, of property values and interest rates and
Yes.
what's going on with this and what's happening at Zillow, and oh, you can get rich quick with buying properties, and buy my course, and or become an agent, and and then there's the agency, the Supreme Court case that just happened this
Right.
year. There's so much going on in that
Yeah.
world.
There's a lot of
Um,
press for it.
and I
So
don't know
yeah,
if everybody really knows what a broker is. Like, what does the
right.
broker do?
Right. So as a broker, you are supposed to have certain level of experience requirements and time in the field in order to supervise other agents. So, I'm trying to think of a parallel. Appraisers have a parallel, but that'd be just as detailed as real estate agents. So basically, it's kind of like the supervisor, right? And you can't be a supervisor until you've had the opportunity to get certain experiential requirements. So that way you have the knowledge and the experience to help other agents. Do their job well. And in the state size, it's more of a legal thing. So any of my agents' conduct, my neck is out on the line for them as their supervising broker. And so if they screw something up bad enough, I'm on the hook for it, really, is what it boils down to, because I'm the one who's in charge of each file. So that's where it comes down to training my agents, making sure they know the right things to do in the first place, so I don't have to be so hands-on in every little detail, right? And kind of ongoing coaching. So yeah, it's mainly legal liability, and then just instruction, helping the agents know what to do. But in a small market like ours, I really wear three hats. Is what I like to think of. I wear the broker hat, where I'm supervising my agents and coaching my agents, making sure they're making good money so they want to stay in it, but also making sure they're compliant with the laws and rules at stake. But then I'm also a salesperson, so we're not a big metropolitan area, so it's not many brokers make it as a non-competing broker is kind of the lingo in our industry. So a broker who doesn't actually go out and sell anything, they literally just do that role of supervising agents. Um, if you have 150 agents, that I see that working, but we've got 10. So I go out and I sell as well. So I'm a salesperson, I'm a broker, and then I'm the business owner. And so that kind of comes with the things that, listeners may be more familiar with. I'm thinking through the marketing and continuity in the marketing. I'm thinking through the finances and the budget. Kind of all of those types of things.
Wow. Wow. So, um, what are some of the challenges in that field, or what would be uh, make somebody want to go into it, or maybe tell them I don't want to go into that field?
Right. So I think something, and you already kind of hit on it, that not students, just anybody, I think thinks of it as this super kind of sexy field. Like, yeah, I'm going to go in, I'm going to make all this money, and I interview a lot of people who see it as their fallback, right? Like it's like, okay, I didn't have the success I hoped I would have in this thing, so I'm going to go into real estate because that's easy, right? And I think it's and I have a stat here, and I was trying to pull it up while we're talking. There it is. So the average agent with less than 2 years experience in the United States makes $9,600, less than $10,000 in a year, as far as their take home commissions go. And so I think that's an interesting myth to dispel, but at the same time cast the vision of like, hey, your slice of the pie is out there, and you can go out and hustle. Like I made way more than that my first year in real estate, so it's possible, but it's not the easy money that I think the press kind of promotes it as, which is a big part of why the lawsuits are out there, because I think buyers think and sellers think we're all overpaid, and so we're gonna try to squeeze commissions down. But it comes from a misunderstanding of what we do and honestly how much we do get paid at the end of the day.
Wow. So, um, what's really taken to get there? When we talk about the edge of excellence, and we're like, you want to be excellent. You talked about performance and effectiveness and focus and these things that define excellence. And so, if you want to run an excellent real estate brokerage or be excellent in the field of real estate, um, what's some of the things that you feel really contribute to that success?
Yeah, so I think kind of like I mentioned at the beginning, I have an unwavering conviction of what I'm here for, right? I want to run a God honoring business in Manhattan, Kansas, and that involves taking good care of my agents, taking good care of my clients. My goal has never been to be the biggest firm. There's 450-ish agents in our marketplace, and 85-ish firms, and we tend to be in the top eighth to 10th position as far as the production goes and size of firm goes, and we tend to hover around 10 agents, at any given point in time. So my goal, I feel like I'm achieving my goal, even though I'm not the biggest, baddest, firm in town, but mostly because I believe we are. Living out our core values. And so I have this resolve and this conviction that in order for us to be excellent, we need to be effective at having integrity and then offering excellence, which is for this conversation a little bit of circular reasoning, but these are our core values: integrity, excellence, and kindness. Which kindness is kind of, we're in a very catty industry, and so I think it's really important to kind of try to highlight, like, hey, just because you don't get along with that person doesn't mean you don't treat them with respect and dignity. And so if we can live out those core values, to me, and we can run a business that's solvent and everybody can have an appropriate work-life balance, enjoy what they're doing, but still have enough take-home pay, I feel really good about that.
Got it. So you're looking at the big picture, looking at every aspect and all the stakeholders of, am I doing something that's going to create what I want for my family, for my
Right.
community, my team members, are the employees doing well? Is everything going good there? Are the clients taken care of? And I've got to try to serve everyone in that community, not
Yeah.
just one objective.
Bingo. Yep. That's exactly right.
That is the objective. So,
Yeah.
and I forgot to talk about this before the show, but you've had a lot of CollegeWorks alumni that you've worked with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been kind
So
of fun. It's like a niche
um,
now, my thing.
there's a few that they go, hey, I'm interested in real estate. I want to be in the Manhattan, Kansas area, and is there anyone in that field? And we're like, yeah, David. And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to reach out to him, and then it usually tends to work out. And
Yep.
I'm curious of what have you noticed, on the employer side of somebody who's hired a CollegeWorks alumni, even though you're one yourself, but you
Sure.
see the differences maybe of them versus other people you might interview or other people in their role. And without talking badly about any of your other employees or team members, what did you
Sure. Of
notice
course.
about the CollegeWorks alumni?
Yeah, we've got a good team. Everybody brings kind of a different strength set, and I think with the CollegeWorks alumni, there is just a different drive, that comes with those guys when they come in and interview, and you can kind of tell. I remember interviewing one back to back with another person who wasn't, and they were just kind of thinking and talking about the role. And I just remember the stark difference of eye contact, just simple kind of nonverbal things, the way they dressed. It was evident that these CollegeWorks alumni are coming in, they're driven, they're taking their career and their kind of trajectory where they want to go seriously. And that's unfortunately not common. I shouldn't say not common. That's less common. And so most of our agents, all of our agents, I would say, are very driven and have that, but that is kind of a unique variable that seems to come with the CollegeWorks folks.
So all the ones you hire have that, but the percentage of the ones you interview is higher when you interview a CollegeWorks alumni.
Right, exactly. I'd say 100% when I interview CollegeWorks alumni if they graduated from the program.
So if they
So
were
we've we've
successful here,
we've got three. We've
they're
got
very
three
cool.
guys.
So
Yeah.
and they tend to have that mindset of like you kind of have to harness them a little bit. They're like wild
Yes.
horses of like I want to take
That's
over the world. I want
that's
to.
a great analogy, actually. Wild horses. I feel like that's a little bit of the challenge that comes with CollegeWorks, agents. And it's interesting because in real estate, you're technically independent contractors, and so when you work for Foundation Realty, you're not a W-2 employee. You're a 1099 independent contractor, and so. And real estate gets to operate in kind of this gray area in the law between employee and independent contractor. Because I have all this legal liability, I can treat them a little more like employees, but technically they're still independent contractors. And so they have this entrepreneurial spirit and want to get out and hustle and want to help reform the company and think through ways to make things better. And so that's good. That's good. I won't say it's bad. It just challenges me at times. It's like, okay, well, now I got to think through this. And I was kind of happy and content with the way things were, but this makes sense, and let's do it, right, guys? So I appreciate the camaraderie that we have, and the kind of forward thinkingness that they bring to the team, so I can keep making my company better.
That's awesome, man. So as you're going through life, you're a very successful family man too. And the one thing that I've always admired about you is just that commitment to your wife, your kids, your
Mm,
community. Very grounded, very centered, and despite
thanks.
easily stressed in
Yes,
business, tend to
still
be
the truth.
very. You tend to be very calm in life situations. So
Yeah.
you're trying to hold that down and be a little bit older, more mature than maybe your age at the time,
Hmm.
and not following the pack of other college students that are like, I'm gonna wait till I'm
Right.
50 to figure out what I'm
Right.
gonna do. Um, you're on a path to do that. At what point did you go, I think I'm doing this right. I think I'm achieving some
Mm.
level of success, or I'm on that cusp of the edge of excellence.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about that question a little bit, and it's kind of a trite example. So we get recruited by franchises all the time, and I always tell folks I'll accept one interview. I'll chat with you. I'm happy to be sold. Like, sell me on this. I'm not opposed to franchises categorically. I've just never been sold, never been pitched one that was compelling enough to sign up for, if that kind of makes sense. So I tend to interview those meetings. And so there was one that I entertained, and it didn't go very well. I mean, and I'll leave that story for another day. But I remember one of his value propositions was, well, our founder, and he was a very old man at that time. Our founder started this company when he was 23 or 24, or whatever age I was. I think it was 24 when I started Foundation Realty, and that was one of their value propositions. Like, we have this history, and look at our founder; he's been doing it forever, and he started this back when he was. And I was kind of like, that's me. You know, I started this company when I was 24. Like, how? So in some ways, I don't think it's a great value proposition, but I remember thinking that in the moment, like, oh, that's going to be a story I'm going to tell, right? I achieved something really early, and that's kind of cool. I didn't realize it kind of snuck up on me.
Yeah, there's
And
something people use that's a bullet point on my resume that they use on their
right.
resume to, get attention. So
Exactly. Exactly. And I'd say the other time was I've never actually, in recent years, I have started paying attention to stats, but I got just a random text message from a fellow agent. I try to get along good with everybody. It's actually similar to my high school years. Uh, Agents don't tend to be my very closest friends, but I've got good friends with most of my colleagues in the community. We all get along with really well. But I got a text message from somebody that said, "Hey, congrats!" And I was like, "Who? What are you talking about?" It's like, they were like, "Congrats on being the number one residential sales agent last year." I think this was 2021. I was like, "You're kidding me." I had no idea, people paying attention to it. So that was another moment that just kind of snuck up on me, where I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I am growing in excellence, right? This is something that's happening, and I'm not really even paying attention to some point, to some degree. So
So what you're bound to have some limitations. You're bound to have some roadblocks or go, I don't know how to get to that next level or get to,
yeah,
my goals faster, better, whatever it might be. So is there a system or process that you go to for me to be able to operate at the highest level, for me to achieve what I want to achieve or be my best version of myself? Here's what I have to do. What advice
yeah.
would you give the listeners of this is what I do to get to that level?
Yeah. So I'd say one of the best things that I've ever done for my business was hire staff. So this is not the 1099 agents that I'm talking about. This is an employee that works for us. She's our operations director, and it took a few hires to find the quite right fit and to develop the job description. But I remember it was between 2020 and 2021 that she started taking on a lot of additional duties within my transactions. So each transaction I did and the volume of business I was doing shrank my work needed because I was able to delegate that to a salaried employee. And I remember looking back at what I did in 2021 compared to 2020, which is substantially more, but I actually was home more. I took one or two more vacations that year. I had more time to be with my family and my church community and the things that I was really wanting to do in addition to my business. And it really stuck. It's like, why didn't I do this a long time ago? But I think there's a timidness, especially when you're managing a tight budget and, you're not making a ton of money, right? It's like, okay, how do I, justify paying somebody and even paying a salary, to somebody, not just hourly, to make something like this work. But that's a plunge I wish I would have taken a little earlier because I do think it helped me grow very quickly.
So kind of hearing like, oh, like you're gonna take the risk of starting your own business, and I'll risk things on myself. Why don't I risk working with others? Risk
Yeah.
the team. Maybe I can build a team that can be as successful. I'm already taking
Yeah.
entrepreneurial risk. Why don't I risk?
Right. And I think there's a lot of tasks that were just kind of soul sucking for me. It's like, gosh, I don't like, I'm okay at Adobe products, right? So I'm designing all of our marketing materials and stuff. It's like, it's taking me like 4 hours to do something. It might take somebody who knows how to do this 20 minutes, right? Or 30 minutes. So I'm watching YouTube tutorials. I'm like, okay, how do I? And so I started using a freelance website and getting some of that outsourced. But then that staff person is kind of another version of exactly that. I was able to bring a lot of these things in house. But in addition to hiring staff and taking that, there's a book that I've read that I like to plug to young business owners. It's called "What's Best Next" by Matt Perman, and it's kind of it's from a Christian perspective, but it's his synthesis of most of the thought leaders in the business world right now who are writing books about productivity and getting things done and being effective. And he has a lot of really awesome tips. But two of the things that have changed my world or how I think about running my day. One of them is scheduling your day at 70% capacity or less. And so that really I struggled with a little bit because it's like, well, no, that leaves 30%, probably 40% of things that I could continue to get done if I just cram a little harder into my day, right? And he uses the illustration of a highway, and I've always thought this, so it resonated with me. If that front guy goes 65 miles an hour and then the next guy goes 60, like there's no reason we should have traffic jams, right? Everybody just going the right speed. But for some reason I'm stuck at 40 miles an hour during rush hour traffic. Why is that? And it's because highways statistically are most efficient. So the most cars get from one side to the other side of the highway when it's 70% full. And you start to have inefficiencies on the highway when you get any fuller than 70%. And that's why traffic slows down, because every little tap of the brakes has a ripple effect all the way downstream. And so he made that the analogy of our days, and I have experienced that to be true. And then I can embrace, if I'm at 70% capacity, I'm not late to meetings all the time, which I was running ragged, always being late to meetings. I can embrace the little interruptions during the day when an agent needs a little coaching moment, or a client needs a little bit of extra time than I typically budget for that type of appointment or whatever it is. I can embrace those things rather than pushing people off and saying, sorry, I don't have time for you. You're going to have, we'll talk later. Right. And so I'm actually able to be more efficient with what I want to get done when I don't jam my schedule totally full.
So I'm
And
going
then
to
the
challenge
second,
that. I'm
yeah,
going to
go ahead.
say you can't do that unless you've pushed yourself to capacity. Until you know what your capacity is, until you've
Sure.
been overwhelmed or try to take on a lot, how do I know? Because it sounds really nice to be like, I'm just going to do 70% of the work I was doing
Yeah.
before. It's a 4 hour
Well, and it's
work
not
week.
70% of the work. It's more 70% of, I'm thinking more of like, I scheduled 10 minutes for my drive time between appointments, and now I'm late every time because that appointment took it. It's just it's more about giving yourself margin, I think,
Sure,
and
sure.
not trying to cram your day so full. But you're exactly right. I think until you know, and I think you experience that when you're first getting started in real estate. But if not necessarily as the global rule, but to pursue that. So always kind of have in your head, okay, where do I feel like I am capacity wise? And I think that changed my business a ton when I flipped from how can I cram an extra 10% and actually get 110% out of my day to actually let's try to schedule things at 70%. I actually produced more business. I ended up selling more real estate.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think that, and that's something we teach is that going, hey, 2 hour time blocks. So
Yeah.
you want to do some homework, 2 hour time block. You want to
Yeah.
go to the gym, 2 hour time block. A lot of these things aren't going to take 2 hours, but we're going to do a two
Right.
hour time block so that we got buffer
Mm,
time to get to and from, and then you can be 100% focused on the thing you're
yeah.
doing, and then build a schedule. Right? If you don't have a schedule
Right.
built out and you don't have goals and priorities to put in there, well, then you really can't operate at any sense of capacity or achieve what you want to achieve because you got no game plan. So it's build
Yeah.
the schedule, give yourself the 2 hour blocks, go 100% capacity, figure out where that is, and then when you go, okay, I know what my capacity is, I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at, I know what I got to delegate to other team members and
Right.
build a team around me. Now I can dial it back to go, I'm going to give myself that. I like that idea of
Yeah.
70% so that it flows, because there's times where you go, this meeting's going great, I want to dive deeper, I want to give it
Right.
110%, or
Yeah.
I want
Yeah,
to plug
that's
in
something I
this
learned from college
extra
works
thing.
for sure. What can build rapport for an hour, I think, was a challenge. The other branch
Yeah,
managers and I would all, I don't know if that came from corporate or if we just made that up, but it's like, can you build rapport for an hour before you talk about painting at all? And it's like, so I don't try to drive that so hard anymore, but it happens naturally. You click with your clients, you enjoy each other. Like a couple weeks ago, I had a 3 hour listing appointment. Typically, it takes an hour to hour and 15 minutes. Just sometimes that happens, and I had the leeway. That one ran me over, but usually I have the leeway to do that. So
for sure. And or when there's an opportunity, right? Maybe an
right,
opportunity presents itself that if I've got some wiggle room, I can take
right.
advantage of that opportunity. If
Right.
I'm
That was a $750,000 listing. That's a big fish. And so I didn't
wow.
want to rush out of that appointment and say, sorry, I got to run. It's like, well, no, this is a priority. I want this business. And so I'm going to work hard for this client. And if that involves taking a little extra time during that appointment, then I'm going to take it.
So to do what you've done, build a successful brokerage at a super young age, and start it when you're in your early 20s.
Hmm.
Build this happy family, and uh, be a role model to others and employees and team members in the community. All this stuff. Um, what are some really important advice you would give to younger self, or anything you would tell your 20-year-old self that's listening to the show today? Of here's what I want you to know.
Yeah, yeah. I think you've already hit it a couple times. Try not to stress about everything so much and take things so seriously. I think back to some of the circumstances in college work. It's like it felt like a big deal, and it really wasn't. I had a couple horrible payroll Fridays because I was just stressed about it. It's like, why am I not enjoying my life right now? This could be so fun, and this is exactly what I want. Actually, is to hang out with my friends, but instead, I'm just like dying of anxiety over here because this client is, whatever, fill in the blank. I don't even remember the circumstances, but in retrospect, it's not that big a deal. And I run into big deals now, right? Like with real estate, this is people's biggest financial investment. Typically, they make in their entire life, and things happen that get kind of stressful, right? It's a little bit higher stress job, and so I think that would be one thing. Work hard not to stress, and not to get so wound up about every little thing. So, and then something else I think that's really settled in on me a little bit. A lot of times I feel like everything kind of relies on me. Like whatever impact on the world that I'm going to have, I've got to make it right now. And I think through just time reflecting, like I think my greatest impact will actually be through my kids and through the people that I have influence and relationships with. Because if you think about it, if I can raise uh, healthy, strong children who can go out and have the same type of impact that I'm having. I've got 4 kids, so that's 4 times the impact just there if I can do a good job raising them, right? And so I think that's something else is don't get so task oriented. That's what I would tell to me. I mean, maybe some of our listeners they're like, oh, I like people already, but I liked people, but I got very task oriented. And so if I could kind of take the blinders off every once in a while and really try to see, hey, this client I'm talking to is a person, right? And I want to value what they're saying to me rather than just take a number and move on to the next type of thing. And so realizing that I can have an impact, not just in the tasks that I'm doing for the last, 15 15 years and the next 30 years, but also through the people that I'm getting to influence and the people that I'm having an impact in their lives. So I think that's inspiring to think about, and true as well. And that helps me kind of slow down, take the time with people, and invest more in people than just in getting the next thing on my to-do list done.
Absolutely, man. That's what I love about what I do. This is
Yeah,
my favorite
absolutely.
thing. I get to develop people and help create options for them. And I had that experience. I tried to get out of college for a little bit, and I went to this startup in the fintech space, and we were a robo advisor, and we're helping people retire.
Mm,
And raised $15 million of venture capital, grew to $1 billion in assets under management, and front page of the Wall Street Journal kind of stuff. It was really cool, and thought, this is going to be where I build my career, and this company's going to take off. And some of that didn't happen. And
mm,
I was at a moment where I was trying to figure out what am I going to do. And my dad and I were talking about it over and over and over again. And he said, after several conversations, like, shut up, stop whining. You're really stressed out and complaining about the fact that you have two jobs that you love, and
right.
want to do, and both of them could support your family, and both of them can make a positive impact on the world, and both of them you love your coworkers, and you're excited about both of them. Like, most people don't have one job they love or one company.
Right.
So you should be appreciative of that, and just make a decision.
Yeah.
And then I thought about, why do I have these options? Why do I have these choices that I'm able to make of these different careers? And well, because what I got a chance to do here, and what I got a chance to
Yeah.
do at DBP as an intern, and build a business and work with people, and the connections that I made, and the things I learned, and the ways I kind of tested myself and built up my work ethic, and my communication skills, and management skills, and organizational skills. That's probably one of the biggest I built up, because I had none
Hmm.
at the start of the job, and I definitely developed a lot. And
You'd have
that,
to.
yeah, it gave me these options. So why don't we, keep this thing rolling, and create options for other people, so they have those same choices to be able to make too. And then after a long time, and I think you're
Yeah.
seeing this, the longer you're in one place, and that's where the focus can really come. Start when you're young with doing everything, be in the choir, be in
Yeah.
the football
Yeah.
team, do
Yeah.
all that stuff. But as you get older, and you start to, narrow your focus and narrow your career, when you're in one place for a long time, you start to have these awesome connections that come back, all these serendipitous things. And you're probably
Yeah.
experiencing, like, oh,
Oh yeah.
I helped a client buy this house 10 years ago, and now I'm helping them sell it.
Hmm.
And the buyer of that house is a client who his house, just moved to the area, and all these, connections that start to
Yes.
occur. And that's kind of what I'm getting to experience now with
Yeah.
talking to you today, is going, oh my
You
gosh.
become kind of a household name. It's like, how many times did I talk to my wife about Sean? You're my branch manager and VP that year, and it's like, yeah, it's fun to have history with people, and get to see that influence you had, and people grow through them later on down the road. So yeah.
Seeing that full circle, knowing,
Yeah.
the Alex, Clay that work with you now, that go, I've seen these guys come up through this, and reconnect, and kind of that circle of life is pretty cool, man. So
Yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
really
That's
appreciate
great.
you being on the show today. I really appreciate you sharing with the audience, how you found your career path, what it's like to be in the broker side of real estate. And I'm sure we're going to have a bunch of people reaching out to you on LinkedIn or something. So you'll probably have a bunch of alumni that want to come work there eventually. But
Awesome.
they're also going to want to know just, how to do what you did in their field, and how to open up their own real estate brokerage in Illinois or in Michigan or wherever they are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm an
get ready
open
for
book.
that.
I'm happy to share what I have. I just said it, so I guess I better put my money where my mouth is, huh? I want to invest in people, so it's great.
Awesome, dude. Well, have a great day. Thanks for being on the show. Look forward to continuing to talk in the future, David.
Awesome. Thank you very much.